Everybody, and welcome to a soggy evening here. All right, welcome to the Village Board of Trustees meeting on December 9th, 2019. Could we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Ankerman. Here. Trustee Charlo.
Here.
Trustee Grenier.
Here.
Trustee Markey. Here. Trustee Meyer.
Here.
Trustee Toll.
Here.
Okay, would everybody please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay. Yes. We have a proclamation tonight to honor the service of Lynn and Eric Grenier. So if I could do that, and if I could ask Mr. and Mrs. Grenier to come up to the podium, I would appreciate it.
Okay. That's all you have to do is tell them you're leaving.
Thank you. Thank you both. Appreciate that. There we go. Okay, folks. This is a proclamation honoring the public service of Lynn and Eric Grenier. Whereas Lynn and Eric Grenier have lived in Lake Bluff since 1994, raised their two children, Lauren and Kit, here, and contributed greatly to the village through their numerous volunteer efforts and by interacting with civility in all circumstances and embracing a positive and forward-looking orientation. And whereas Lynn has shared her artistic talents by providing pro bono graphic design services, exceptional eye for detail, and artwork on numerous occasions for the village of Lake Bluff, the Village History Museum, the Lake Forest, Lake Bluff Chamber of Commerce, and the Lake Bluff, it should say quasi-centennial. It says sesquicentennial. We have just gone forward 25 years. Thank you very much. And whereas Eric has contributed both locally and regionally to the arts by his play in the Lake Forest Civic Orchestra and the Lake County Symphony Orchestra, by promoting on his horn there, promoted community and humanitarian service as a member of the Lake Forest Lake Bluff Lions Club, and further conservation and education of our natural landscapes as a member of the Associate Board for Lake Forest Open Lands Association. And whereas Lynn and Eric have cherished Lake Bluff's history, culture, and legacy of excellence by researching and preserving historical information, creating interest in and sharing knowledge of local history, inspiring broad participation in events, and embodying the spirit and pride characteristic of Lake Bluff through their involvement with the Lake Bluff History Museum, to include Lynn's long-term leadership as the museum board of directors, and whereas Eric faithfully and diligently served as a member of the Lake Board School District 65 School Board from 2003 to 2011, where he was board secretary and board president, and proudly guided the planning and building of the new Lake Bluff Elementary School. And whereas Eric has proudly served with the Lake Bluff Village Board since 2014 and has worked to reduce the property tax burden on homeowners by supporting land use policy decisions that diversified the village's revenue streams, attract new families with children with his support of the village branding and economic development programs, expand housing options in the village, and make Lake Bluff seem more and more like a summer resort for residents and neighbors, as seen manifested through his support and execution of the village's strategic plans, multi-year physical planning efforts, governing philosophy of staying out of the way of commerce, exemplified by his work on the creation of short-term rental housing pilot program. And whereas on December 9, 2019, village trustee Eric Grenier will participate in his final village board meeting, and he and Lynn will move to California to their next new adventure, leaving Lake Bluff better than they found it. That's absolutely true. Now, therefore, I, Kathleen O'Hara, village president of the Village of Lake Bluff, do hereby proclaim that the public service of Lynn and Eric Grenier have contributed greatly to the quality of life in the Village of Lake Bluff, because they took personal responsibility for the quality of the community, and that the Grenier family will be greatly, greatly missed. And we mean every word of it. And you have been a great asset. And the 2020 quasi-centennial year will have Lynn's design as the vehicle sticker, and we're very happy for that, very much so. Thank you. I mean it. that Kathy McKechnie, president of the Lake Bluff History Center, would like. What'd I say? Okay, well, that forgives it for the quasi-centennial thing. Okay, there you go.
After hearing that long list of the proclamation of all you two have done for Lake Bluff, I think you deserve a trip to California, because it's the only way you'll get a little vacation. I will say I have the hardest working board in town. All our board members contribute to this community in many different ways, but none more than Lynn Grenier. She makes us look good. She puts out the most professional materials, so we always look good in the community, and along with Philip Ross. And Eric Grenier, I mean, they come as a package deal. He's one of our best Ghost Walk actors. He was the best butcher at the village market scene, and he really relished that role. So on behalf of the Lake Bluff History Museum, the village, and the 125th committee that the museum is sponsoring, we would like to present you with the very first copy of I'm just going to do this for commercial purposes. The very first copy of the Mark McMahon graphic of Lake Bluff. It's like a map of the village, and hopefully you're going to take this with you so you remember how to get back here. This was done by a donation of the Rolick family, and Joanna and Bob Rolick was a significant part of Lake Bluff, and Joanna donated this money on behalf of their family for the 125th. And you'll be seeing these all over town during 2020. That's why this is kind of a commercial. But Lynn and Eric, this is the first copy ever. And it's signed by Mark McMahon, so.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm going to say one thing. I want to thank, the first person who got me involved in public service was Susan Coburn, who was on the caucus, Lake Bluff caucus, and she came over to my house and recruited me, and I just wanted to put a plug into the caucus and Vote Lake Bluff, how important that organization is, how it's getting people involved in the community, and if anybody out there is interested, please go to them, because they provide guidance and inspiration to convince you to get into something that's a little scary at first, but I can hardly imagine living without it. So thanks to them for all of this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm going to say something too.
Yay.
So there are so many layers that tie us to Lake Bluff. We'll be back, and not only do we have this, but I think by the time we come back, that orange LED sign at 176 for North Shore Adult Diapers is going to bring us back, and we're going to, we'll find our exit. But it's a hard place to leave, so it's a vacation with furniture. That's what we're calling it. And we're very grateful to all of you in so many ways for making us part of Lake Bluff too.
We now have a proclamation designating December 2019 as National Drunk and Drugged Driving 3D Prevention Month. Whereas December 3rd, 2019, the Illinois Department of Transportation fatal crash data reported there were 853 fatal crashes and a total of 915 fatalities, of which hundreds of those deaths involved a driver impaired by alcohol and/or drugs. And whereas the National Roadside Survey shows the proportion of marijuana-positive drivers involved in fatal crashes increased from 8% to 17% in 2014, and whereas the December holiday season is one of the deadliest times of the year for impaired driving, and whereas for thousands of families across the state and the nation, holidays are a time to remember loved ones lost, and whereas organizations across the state and the nation are engaged in the Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over enforcement effort and other campaigns that foster public awareness of the dangers of impaired driving and anti-impaired driving law enforcement efforts, And whereas the Village of Lake Bluff is proud to partner with the Illinois Department of Transportation's Division of Traffic Safety and other traffic safety groups in that effort to make our streets and roads safer. Now therefore, I, Kathleen O'Hara, Village President of the Village of Lake Bluff, do proclaim the month of December 2019 as Drunk and Drug Driving Prevention Month in the Village of Lake Bluff. Call upon all citizens, government agencies, business leaders, hospitals and healthcare providers, schools, public and private institutions to promote awareness of the impaired driving problem and support programs and policies to reduce the incidence of impaired driving and to promote safer and healthier behaviors regarding the use of alcohol and other drugs for this holiday throughout the year. Okay. We have consideration of the minutes of the November 25th, 2019 Village Board meeting. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved. Thank you, Ms. Ankerman, and a second.
Second.
A second by Mr. Grenier. Any corrections, additions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
At this time, the Village President, Board of Trustees, we allot 15 minutes for this. For any individual who would like to opportunity to address the Village Board of Trustees on any matter not listed on the agenda. We're asked each person to limit their comments for 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Rick Lesser. I live at 327 West Hawthorne Court. I wanted to come over this evening and raise some questions with the board concerning the Stonebridge development, which is adjacent to my property and right in my backyard. There are three in particular issues that are raised under the current, by Stonebridge. First is the fence. At first, they put up what can only be described as a janky fence with metal poles and 2x4s on the exterior across it. The neighbors became quite upset, of course, by this, and the village fortunately did actually act and actually gave them a notice that that was not acceptable. And now we have a chain link fence up there. Now, the chain link fence is, of course, invisible, and we can see through it. You can see the boarded up duplex, half-built duplex that is right there. The ditch that's on the other side. Now, of course, it used to be a chain link fence back in the day before it was Stonebridge, but then it was also had a line of trees and was then a large field. Now it is a half-built bridge. It's a ditch. It's all kinds of very well. It looks like a half-abandoned construction site, which of course is what it is. The agreement with Stonebridge, I believe, called for a wooden fence. Although I will tell you, I haven't had an opportunity to pull out all of the details. But I thought certainly that the agreement required a wooden fence because it is not in the condition that it was prior to Stonebridge. The second is the demolition permit. I understand that they have applied now to demolish the manor house, and that permit application has now been assigned to the Historic Preservation Commission. I'm quite certain that part of Stonebridge's agreement was that they would maintain the manor house in good condition. Having a request to demolish it raises certainly any question as to whether this current developer has any actual intention of developing the property, why they have now made this about face in plans is unclear, and why the village is hearing and considering this application is also very unclear, considering that we currently have an agreement that requires the maintenance of the manor house. Third is the assessment, the assessed valuation of the property. They have appealed the assessment value, and I will tell you, I have gone on the Cutley County's Board of Review site. The information there is at best cryptic. I could not make too much in the way of heads or tails out of it, and even though I'm close to the business and have dealt with assessments before, it's very difficult to follow. But it does appear that Stonebridge is asserting that its property is valueless, that the actual value of the property is They have it down as $2, $3 per lot. And that the Board of Review did in fact reduce a number of the assessments. I'm trying to figure out, is this actually true, number one? And number two, did the village have an opportunity to object to this reevaluation, this appeal of the valuation? And if the village had an opportunity to object, why didn't the village object? Because after all, by lowering Stonebridge's value, it simply increases the burden on the rest of us. Now, I hope the board will notice that none of these three issues involves actually completing the project, actually building buildings, actually solving the problem that has sat in my backyard for now 13 years. I hope that the board, this board, will take an active role in enforcing the agreement with Stonebridge and not simply turning a blind eye to the needs of the community. Thank you.
Anyone else?
It's hard to follow Mr. Lesser because he's so eloquent in speaking, but I'm going to piggyback just a little bit off of that. My name's Kendall Severson. I live at 444 West Witchwood Lane. We've lived there almost 3 years now. We love this neighborhood. The street is filled with young kids. And I repeat everything that Mr. Lesser says. I just wanted to add one more concern. The dead trees along West Witchwood, their side of the property, their side of West Witchwood I'm so nervous that they're going to come down in these high winds, and kids play in this street, and it's just a concern of mine. So just wanted to express that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Hi, my name's Matt Allison. I live on Witchwood as well. I want to completely agree with everything Rick said. It's actually in my front yard. I live right on Witchwood there, so we're dealing with that. We've lived there for about 3 years as well. Our observation right now is that it doesn't really appear to us that this thing is pretty much seems like a boondoggle almost, the whole deal. It just seems like it's not working at all. And we kind of feel like this kind of thing would not be allowed to happen on the east side of Lake Bluff, but it's happening on our side of Lake Bluff over in West Harris. And we also feel like we're not sure that the neighboring folks over here in Lake Forest, which is directly south of where we are, if we haven't gotten any input from them yet as how they feel about it, because this property borders theirs pretty much, if I remember correctly. So we just kind of like to know what's going on and what you all plan on doing about it. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, everybody. I'm Katie Sikara. I'm Matt's wife. We live at 412 West Witchwood. We moved there about 3 years ago. I just wanted to come in and just echo all the complaints that we have since we've moved in. We've seen nothing done. It's just been complete decay. The house has just been left there. I understand the house is still in very good condition, second to highest on a scale in its ratings from excellent to good. So it is very concerning to me that they've put a permit out there to have it demolished, because it seems as though it is in fairly good shape and could be renovated. My other concern kind of just goes around the whole idea of good intentions with Roanoke and what their plans are. When we first moved there, when we were looking at our house, there was a big plan and pictures of this pushed back kind of walkway that was going to extend to the open lands down at the end, and it was all going to be landscaped. It was going to be this beautiful thing. Since then, nothing's happened. The fence falls down, they tack it back up, there's strings attached around it, there's like those little baggy tie strips on there. It's been completely left there, and I feel like if they had good intentions to follow through on this development, some of that could have been done in the process. you know, it's understandable, the housing market isn't fantastic. Lake Bluff, you know, there's a lot of houses for sale in Lake Bluff and Lake Forest. But for us, for me to feel confident in this development and in Roanoke, I feel like we should be seeing a little bit more movement and just general maintenance of the property. They're doing a lot of stuff to make it look real pretty in the front and putting up signs about preservation, but then we get the back end of it and we see it's just, you know, there's just trash back there, the fence is terrible, it just looks awful, and it just feels a little, it's upsetting to see that it's just left like that and nothing's being done. So we just wanted to come out and talk about it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, my name's Carmela Heinzelman. I live at 430 West Witchwood Lane. I'm just a couple doors down from Katie.
And I'm Millie Duplessis. I live at 448 West Witchwood. And we're just here because we are concerned about the development going on, or the non-development going on across the street. And we wanted to show our support for people who are expressing their concerns.
We moved in 2012, so I feel like maybe we've been on that street the longest out of everybody here, and it's the same. So I guess probably, you know, echoing what everybody else said, the frustrating thing just visually is the fence is probably just the most obvious when there's a storm and it blows down, and it's just down for a long time. It takes a while for it to, you know, come back up despite calls to the village. So that's frustrating. Now there's a chain link fence up that at least is
An improvement.
it looks professionally done, you know, compared to what it was a couple weeks ago. But there were no posts, so it just, you know, it would just fall over really easily. So I didn't prepare anything, but we just wanted to echo the sentiments that were already spoken. We're just here as concerned residents.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Sir?
Hi, I'll just take a minute or two. My name's Charlie Bagden, 323 West Hawthorne Court. Live just to the east of Rick and Terry Lesser. And my concern is what everybody else has said, plus one additional one is, my understanding was Roanoke was supposed to come back to the village zoning board quite a while ago with an updated proposal. And to my knowledge, I don't know if you all are aware of this or you know anything more than I do, but my understanding is they haven't come back with anything tangible to the zoning board in a couple years, Rick, or even longer. So I guess as the village board, I think you have some responsibility to put some pressure on the zoning board, to put pressure on Roanoke, to let's find out what's happening, what their plans are. You know, I mean, this has been 2-3 years ago that they have not come back with anything. I mean, it's unacceptable. You know, they have to be able to give us some idea what their plans are for the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. We allow for public comment, and we generally have an exchange, because this is not on tonight's agenda, but there are a few remarks that I think we need to make tonight. Regarding the fence, first off here, on Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019, Village Building Code Supervisor Mike Croak sent a notice of violation to the Stonebridge developer owners regarding the fence. Village gave them 10 days from that date of December 3rd to install a new wooden fence, and they are subject to fines up to $750 a day. The developers are now subject to additional fines for the illegal installation of the chain link fence after they were told to stop and not put it up. Those fines, and the clock is ticking on those fines, and they will pay. They will pay. So that part is that. One of the things that I won't talk about here, and, you know, where we're going with Stonebridge, and they have put in a demo for this. Just to go back because it always seems to get glossed over just a little bit, and I do think we have to make it right or wrong in terms of clarification. The original zoning calls for, I think, approximately 30 homes on about an 1.5 acre lot. When Harrison House closed and they tried to sell the development, I guess they didn't get too many bidders. One of the ideas for the whole PRD was to increase, if we increase density, we hope that there would be a guarantee that the mansion would be saved. That's a good part of that. Whether or not that is happening is certainly, it's probably not. It was a gamble, but it was the idea that if we increase some density, then the mansion could be saved. If the mansion cannot be saved, it's basically no house, no deal. So eventually, it would go, if it is not going to be built, and they're going to tear it down, the bottom line is, there is no more PRD. It goes back to the original zoning. Right now, on Friday, actually, December 6th, the Stonebridge developer finalized their demolition applications for the Manor and Gatehouse. It goes automatically, any request for demo goes automatically to the HPC. You can't deny anyone the right to at least propose a demolition. So it has been set for the advisory review conference on Wednesday night. It is just at that Wednesday night, they will not be discussing it, is simply to set a date for an advisory review. And importantly, you should, the village board we do not intend to comment on the proposed demolition during the pendency of, the pendency of this review. It's not our purview at this point to comment on it. It is a forum for the HPC and the permit applicant and other interested parties, including preservation advocates, et cetera, to have the opportunity to reach perhaps a satisfactory resolution of the commission's concern regarding the proposed demolition. And because demolition is incompatible with the existing entitlements, which is the PRD, recorded against the property, no permits will be issued for demolition unless the board directs the building commissioner otherwise. And that direction can be in conjunction with other actions the board will decide to take. But everybody does need to know, the bottom line is, if the mansion is not going to be preserved, that negates the PRD, and it would go back. On the property tax assessment, historically, we have not intervened or made comments in property tax assessments appeals to the state property tax. We let that run its course. I believe there was only one time that we actually have intervened, and that referred a potential church on Shore Acres that we intervened with. Rare exceptions have included properties that I've mentioned that have used in a manner inconsistent with law. So we do not generally interfere. We will let the process work on that, and hopefully that will come out the right way. But that's it for right now. Thank you. All right, we will move on. Do appreciate everybody's comments and concerns, and we are listening.
May I offer one more thing
Go
to
ahead.
that? Sure. So I know Mr. Lesser has been kind enough to communicate with me about setting up an informal conference or kind of coffee about it to have some of these questions answered and talk about through some of the issues with the neighborhood folks. So I'm going to try to set that up, and Mr. Lesser is helping us with that.
We're trying to arrange that for January now.
Yep, thank you.
How will we be notified of?
I will post it on Stonebridge Watch, of course, and anybody we are in contact with, we got an email address, we'll let you know.
Thank you.
Okay. the order of the meeting, do we have anybody here that,
No, that's consent item.
okay, let's just move on then. Village finance reports.
Actually, you know what, if you do consent, then she wouldn't have to sit through them.
Who's this? I'm sorry.
The consent item, there's a zoning, residential zoning relief on item,
Oh, all right, so we just did the
13.
consent agenda, okay,
Yes.
which is correspondence 11, 12, and 13.
and 14.
And 14. So that, the consent agenda, which is acceptance of correspondence, second reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 10 of the Lake Bluff zoning regulations, second reading of an ordinance granting a variation from the village's minimum side yard setback and daylight plane regulations, and second reading of an ordinance granting a special use permit for a restaurant. Okay.
With just one item, just to point out, trustee Grenier was kind enough to pick out a couple typos. They're all in front of you here, just some really minor ones. So those are part of item number 12, as part of consent. Thank you.
What are we gonna do without you? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear, so moved by
Mr. Meyer.
Mr. Meyer, thank you, and seconded,
Second.
and second by Ms. Markey. All in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me, let's do a roll call, please.
Trustee Inkerman.
Aye.
Trustee Sherlow.
Aye.
Trustee Grenier.
Aye.
Trustee Markey.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Okay. All righty, we have the warrant report for December 1 through 15, 2019, and November 2019 payroll expenditures. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Toll, and a second.
Second.
A second by
Meyer.
Mr. Meyer, thank you. All right, we have expenditures of village funds for payment of invoices in the amount of $455,501.60 for December 1 through 15. We have expenditures of village funds for payroll in the amount of $318,294 for November 2019. Total expenditures of $773,795.60. Any comments or questions of our finance director? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Sherlow.
Aye.
Trustee Grenier.
Aye.
Trustee Markey.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Inkerman.
Aye.
Okay, all righty, thank you. Okay, we have the village administrator's report.
I have one thing that's on the agenda, and I'm going to have Jeff come up. And before that, just really quickly, I just wanted to call to your attention that the village's Mike Croak's name has been mentioned tonight. He's our building code supervisor. You may not or may know this. Mike is a trained architect. He's a certified building official and codes enforcement officer in Illinois, and was recently named, or elected, I should say, president of the Northwest Building Code Officials and Code Administrators.
Congratulations.
I guess he's giving up his Sundays now to do that, right, Mike? So congratulations, Mike. Job well done. Jeff is here. We have eclipsed halfway through our budget mark, 6 months in, and I wanted Jeff to come in and give an update. We've had, for the last 24 months, a very aggressive capital schedule, and I wanted Jeff to come in and brag a little, and also we can wallow in our pity on a couple of little projects, but Jeff, I'll let you take it over.
Yeah, like, as Drew said, we do have quite a few projects going on this year that were included in the budget. So we're working our way through them, kind of divide them into categories. A similar presentation was given last year about this time as far as our progress so far. So on the water side, over the summer, we did complete the water main replacement on those 3 streets. That went fairly well. With the streets patched finally, things are looking good there. As far as roads go, our regular asphalt street resurfacing patching, you see here the train station, we did a big chunk of that lot over the summer. The Moffett Road project finally ended this summer and fall, so we put that one behind us for many years. The Phase 1 portion of the Green Bay Road reconstruction is complete. That's over at IDOT being reviewed. Sidewalk, the tree grates by Block 1, and crack sealing some of our streets. Those were all complete over the summer. Stormwater, we've talked about these couple of projects a few times. 2 fairly significant storm sewer projects where we've addressed some flooding issues, and those seem to be working in the rains we've had since then. So I'm happy with the way those have gone. Contractor did a nice job. And then in progress. This is not an actual Lake Bluff water meter, but it's not too far off from some that we have. Replacing those with these, this is show and tell tonight. That's the meter. And this is a box that goes either in your basement somewhere or outside of the home, if the wires are to the outside of the home. So a wire connects these two. This is the smart point here that will send the signal that we'll be able to read remotely. We should be able to read most of the village from inside this building. A couple other spots we might have to drive to pick up the rest of the village, but that is probably the most exciting project we have from an operational standpoint. That's going to get kicked off tomorrow at a meeting with our contractor, and they should be sending out letters, hopefully within a month, to start getting people to schedule appointments to get their meter changed. So that is, that's something I've been working on since even before I started here, almost 5 years ago. This has been a project on the books, trying to find a way to get it done, and very excited about it. As far as the roads go, we have the bridge over the viaduct on the McClory Trail, the lighting, Phase 2 of Green Bay Road, and then the Green Bay Road Bridge, Phase 1 study. Those are all in progress at this point, some further than others. But this little drawing here is kind of a little cross-section of what the bridge will look like, the pedestrian bridge. It'll be 12 feet wide inside to inside. It says precast beams, asphalt surface, poured walls on the side, then there'll be a railing going up. That should be a significant improvement if we can get that done soon.
It's pitched east to west like that?
It is slightly pitched so that the grades work out on the end. It's where we have our little connector path that comes up to try to make that grade. It is slightly pitched. The village-wide stormwater study, you had a presentation, I think the first meeting of November by Christopher Burke. We have just trying to get that from draft to final, so that is just about done. Boardman Court Storm Sewer Design, that project will probably get out to bids in January for a February bid opening. Forest Cove, Moffett, Ravine Stabilization. This is a picture of our broken pipe going down the ravine. You'll see that in about a half an hour for a construction contract, so that'll be going here very shortly. Sanitary sewer, we have 2 small lift stations that we will be doing the design engineering on right now for construction next fiscal year. That is just a picture of what they look like inside. It's just pipes going down, the pumps are underwater. Basically everything gets
What's that
ripped out
black
and
stuff?
redone. How does that what?
What's that black stuff?
We don't talk about that here.
No, I was kind of looking, is that what I think it is?
That is, that's grease, I mean, everything.
Oh, okay.
Everything that goes down a drain ends up here.
Including basketballs, mop heads, all the bizarre things that get put in.
Yes, our public works guys could tell you stories, but that's not the forum tonight for that. There are 3 projects still kind of on the starting blocks. The underpass, there's a handrail section that's all rusted. The pigeons have gotten to that one, trying to get that into IDOT for review so we can get a permit from them. The Moffett East Witchwood sanitary sewer improvements, we had a study done last year to identify some failing pipe. We had a infiltration study done. Most of what they found was we have the wrong lids on our manholes. They have open holes letting too much stormwater into the sanitary sewer system. So we're trying to get an order out for new lids and get those swapped out. And then the water valve and hydrant replacements, we were kind of waiting on the meter program so that we know how much money we have left in our bond issue to make sure we fit that in to the budget. One repetitive problem we seem to have is things waiting at IDOT to come back for permitting. Right now, that would be the lighting of the trail, and I think the Ped Bridge replacement is held up. But that is, fortunately, most of our projects are either in IDOT right away or we're trying to get money for it. I guess if you're going to get the money, we have to follow their rules. But some of the other issues, hopefully they will get things moving down in Springfield. So that is a quick run through the capital projects. If you have any questions, we can answer them.
Thank you. You've been busy.
Been busy, yes.
Very busy.
All right, thanks.
Santa's watching, and I'm sure he's going to be busy watching.
Thus concludes my report.
Okay, thank you.
Nice delegation.
Okay. Village Attorney's Report.
No report tonight.
No report, okay. Village President's Report. Just want to remark that we had a wonderful Life weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and it went very, very well. Saturday seemed to be a lot of fun. We had Santa at the museum, had other things going on in the library. We had the high school members of the band. We had the Buckthorn Singers for the lighting of the gazebo, and we had quite a few people show up for that, which was nice. Sunday, the museum hosted its annual house tour, and approximately 410 tickets were sold, 410 people from Barrington, Wilmette, Chicago. I mean, we had people come from all over to take a look at some lovely homes in our lovely village. So we thought that was a pretty good success for the village. Okay, so let's go back to the regular agenda. We now have a resolution approving collective bargaining agreement with the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150 Public Employees Division. The collective bargaining agreement with the village's public works employees expired on April 30th, 2019, and on June 20th, 2019, the public works superintendent, the finance director, and Jill O'Brien, labor attorney with Lanner, Muchen, Denbrow, Becker, Levin, and Tonenberg Limited, met with IUOE representatives for the first time to receive the union's proposal. On November 19th, the bargaining groups met and negotiated the attached 4-year agreement effective May 1st, 2019 through April 30th, 2023. Noteworthy items of the agreement include wages which are retroactive to May 1st, and a 2.25 wage increase each year. Health insurance. For the first year of the CBA, monthly insurance premium changed from $661 for single, $1,322 for employees plus one, and $2,016 for family coverage, to $733 for single, $1,465 for employee plus one, and $2,235 for family coverage. For a second year of the CBA, the monthly insurance premium will change to $2,324 for family coverage. Should medical insurance premium costs increase by more than 5% effective during the final 2 years of the agreement, the parties agree to reopen the contract for the purposes of negotiating in good faith about revisions to the wages and insurance premium costs paid by the village. Vacation use modified to reflect current practice, that 440-hour accrual cap and payment at separation. Presently, employees are entitled to a meal break with pay and meal reimbursement up to $8.50 when called in for snow and ice control, main breaks, or other declared emergencies during certain specific circumstances. We recommend increasing meal reimbursement from $8.50 to $10. We want to reduce, the bill will reduce the time and classification required from 3 years to 2. Fair share, agree to delete existing fair share language from the CBA and add voluntary in all places regarding fair share payers, and also delete SNN reference for due payer info to union to include new language to meet recent case law, which is Janice says the non-union workers cannot be forced to pay fees to agree to delete existing fair share language from the CBA. On December 3rd, the village received notice from Ms. Deanna M. Distasio, field attorney for the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150, that the union has ratified the attached agreement. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Marquis, and a second.
Second.
A second by Mr. Grenier. Any comments, questions from the trustees? All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Grenier.
Aye.
Trustee Markey.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankerman.
Aye.
Trustee Charlo.
Aye.
We now have a resolution approving a site plan to modify the dumpster enclosure at the Public Safety Building at 45 East Center Avenue. The village had budgeted to repair and repaint the enclosure around the generator and dumpster behind the Public Safety Building this year. However, during a test, the village discovered that the generator will overheat because the walls of the enclosure were built too close to it. We are proposing to remove the walls from around the generator, which is at the north end of the enclosure, and construct a new north wall between the dumpster and the generator. The generator will then be between the dumpster enclosure to the south and the building to its north, screened from views by the tennis court fence and landscaping to the east. As the existing gate on the west side is difficult to open, the village is proposing to replace this gate with a traditional wood gate. Item was reviewed by the Architectural Board of Reviews at their meeting on December 3rd. The ABR recommended that the enclosure be painted tan to match the horizontal bands on the building and voted 5-0 to recommend the village board approve the site plan. And do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Toll, and a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Charlot. Questions, comments? Roll call.
Trustee Markey.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankerman.
Aye.
Trustee Charlo.
Yes.
Trustee Grenier.
Aye.
A resolution approving a sign exemption request at 79 East Scranton Avenue, which is the Hub and Cycle and Bunk Restaurant. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Meyer, and a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Charlot. John DeRochier, proprietor of Innovasi, is proposing to open an additional restaurant inside the Hub and Cycle Bike Shop at 79 East Scranton Avenue. A portion of the space will remain devoted to bike sales, while some of the bike repair will move downstairs to make space for tables and chairs on the east side of the space. The food will be prepared in Innovasi's kitchen. New window sign is proposed for windows to the left of the entrance as shown on the drawing. The existing Hub and Cycle sign at the top of the window will remain. An exemption from the sign code is required because the total area of the two signs exceed the allowable 15% of the window. At their December 3rd meeting, the Architectural Board of Review voted 5-0 to recommend in favor of approving the exemption and the sign on the condition that the text is reduced in size by 10%. In preparation for the village's board consideration of the request, the neighboring property owners have been notified of the meeting date, and a resolution has been prepared transmitting the ABR's recommendation. I don't see anyone is here. No. All right. Do I already have a motion on that one? So any questions on that? Roll call, please.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankerman.
Aye.
Trustee Charlo.
Aye.
Trustee Grenier.
Aye.
Trustee Markey.
Aye.
We now have a resolution adopting a revised employee handbook for the village. A motion, please?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Ankerman, and a second.
Second.
And second by Ms. Markey. The employee handbook sets forth the conditions of employment applicable to all employees of the village, except certain sections are superseded by applicable collective bargaining agreements. Annually, near the conclusion of the fiscal year, village administration reviews and recommends the board adopt changes to the manual in keeping with best practices in human resources and the recommendations of the Village Labor Council. The Village Labor Council has recommended amendments to the employee handbook prior to the village periodic review. These amendments are made necessary by the Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act, which as of January 1st provides protections in some circumstances to employees whose drug test shows they consume cannabis, but who are not actually impaired by or under the influence of cannabis during working hours. While the Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act was approved by the governor in June, there has been considerable uncertainty due to an anticipated trailer bill and the possibility that would change the rights of public employers. SB 1557 was approved by both chambers of the General Assembly on November 14th and was signed by the governor on Wednesday, December 4th. Among many other cannabis-related changes to state statute, the bill provides that law enforcement officers and firefighters may be prohibited from or disciplined for off-duty consumption of cannabis. The attached revisions will update the employee handbook to be consistent with these new provisions of law. Any questions regarding this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We now have a resolution approving the professional services agreement with American Printing Technologies, which is the vehicle sticker processor support. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Okay, so moved by Mr. Grenier, and a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Charlot. Microsoft will stop issuing security updates for Windows 7 operating systems OS on January 14th, 2020. So the village is updating 11 remaining computers utilizing this older OS. All software programs placed on these new computers will need to be compatible with the new OS. Currently, the village is utilizing a version of software for its in-house vehicle sticker tracking processing that is not compatible with the updated OS and does not provide online purchasing function for residents. Consequently, action is required to be ready for the FY21 vehicle sticker program. The village's current vehicle sticker program application printing vendor, American Printing Technologies, offers a variety of services, including website-based software, component design, programming, processing, printing, mailing, and online sticker fulfillment services. Staff research has revealed that the city of Lake Forest, along with the village of Winnetka and Crystal Lake, have successfully utilized the APT's web-based interface for the online purchasing of vehicle stickers and the in-house data management for 2 years. At this time, village staff recommends the village engage APT for the following services: vehicle sticker application preparation, printing of applications and envelopes, mailing, and website database maintenance. Cost of the initial setup for the web-based service is $8,000. The balance of the scope of services for a 3-year engagement requires village board consideration of a professional services agreement, total engagement not to exceed $28,000 excluding postage. While the current budget includes funding for all the services recommended, with the exception of the website database maintenance, adequate monies are available due to cost-saving experience with the recent copier acquisition to pursue this service enhancement. The purpose of APT's web-based vehicle sticker software will have a net neutral effect on the budget. Does the board have any questions of Finance Director or staff?
I'll just kind of high level really quickly remind folks. So the vehicle stickers serve 3 purposes for the village. One, it is first and foremost a tax. It's a vehicle tax that's linked to users of the roadways, user tax, and generates about $130,000 a year for revenue. The second element is it's your passport to the village's recycling and waste facilities, so we can identify who are residents, make sure those residents are using those facilities. And the third, there is a law enforcement component to this, and that the village law enforcement community does rely on those to identify local vehicles and runs those numbers from time to time and assist in criminal investigation. So, and I think Bettina had a couple of things to add too.
So just as far as the cost of the web-based software is concerned, this is the first year that I know of that we are actually taking DMV, so Secretary of State data, and merging it with our existing data to try to update the database and capture greater compliance. And if we capture 179 extra stickers out of that DMV data, we will have paid for the web-based software in itself. So by DMV data, I mean that we have an agreement with the Secretary of State. They're going to give us all the records that they have for vehicles registered to Lake Bluff addresses. We will merge that with our existing data, scrub out duplicates, and send out applications to all registered vehicles.
Have we done any assessment of our rates of registration?
So that question, you actually participate, actually getting vehicle stickers versus what we believe is out there, or
well,
costs?
our compliance is just looking for what we think our compliance rate is now.
So we have not done that to the, well.
So we haven't done that per se, but I can tell you that we sell about 3,200 stickers with 2,500 water households in the village.
Right.
One would think that you would at least have about 5,002 cars per household.
A little shy.
In most cases.
In most cases. So even assuming only a third of those are there,
Yeah.
we're still looking at somewhat of a missing compliance.
I think we've had some indications of that possibility with some other projects that we've worked
Yes.
on.
The other issue that Trustee Ankerman brought up in a conversation earlier today was the idea that our rates, are we charging enough, certainly compared to market, in terms of tying it to the user tax with the road program? We know the price of asphalt doesn't go down ever. So the idea of, is it enough really to capture what we're doing here? So we said we would bring that up as part of the budget conversations in the spring.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Have we considered any way that we might be able to capture more compliance?
We're hopeful that using this new database, we're hopeful that's going to be, at a minimum, a good way to do it. The other way we've talked about doing in the past is hiking up the penalties, the fees, because it's minimal, so you can roll the dice. Not that I want to put that information out there, but you can roll the dice and try not to get caught, and the fees, the penalties aren't so great.
Because there is a lot of non-compliance.
Drew, in the try not to get caught department, what's our jurisdictional reach? Are we able to, do we have to find the car on the streets to ticket it, I guess is the question.
City street, public parking lots,
Any more questions, concerns? Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Toll?
Aye.
Trustee Ankerman?
Aye.
Trustee Sherlow?
Yes.
Trustee Grenier?
Aye.
Trustee Markey?
Aye.
Trustee Meyer?
Aye.
Okay, we have a resolution authorizing change order number 1 to the construction engineering service agreement for the village's 2019 roadway improvement program. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Ankerman.
Second.
And second by Mr. Meyer. Thank you. On March 11, 2019, the village board approved a resolution authorizing the execution of a construction engineering service agreement with Walt Hamilton Associates to perform construction engineering services for the village's 2019 roadway improvement program in the amount of $46,155. Scheduling delays and issues with the contractor necessitated additional oversight during the project. Due to these issues, additional charges in the amount of $8,379 were incurred. The village's FY 2020 budget contains adequate funding for the increase in cost in the roadway improvement program. In accordance with village purchasing policy, a change order of this amount requires the approval of the village board. The village engineer recommends village board approve the change order to the construction engineering service agreement with Walt Hamilton Associates for the increase in services required to the 2019 roadway improvement program. Any questions for this? Okay. Adoption of the resolution, I assume we can do voice vote, or it has to be? No, this has to be a roll call. Roll call, please, it's
Trustee
money.
Ankerman?
Aye.
Trustee Sherlow?
Aye.
Trustee Grenier?
Aye.
Trustee Markey?
Aye.
Trustee Meyer?
Aye.
Trustee Toll?
Aye.
A resolution approving a professional engineering service agreement with Gowalt Hamilton Associations for the 2020 Motor Fuel Tax Roadway Improvements Program. A motion, please.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Toll. Second?
Second.
A second by Mr. Grenier. The village typically uses motor fuel tax MFT funds to pay for most or all of its annual street resurfacing and patching program once every 3 years. Following the current practice, MLT funds are expected to be used in the 2020 program. The village requested a proposal from Gowalt Hamilton Associates to provide professional services relating to the design and bidding of the 2020 project in accordance with the requirements using MFT funds. The project is anticipated to be built in February of 2020 for the construction beginning after May 1st. The proposal from Gowalt Hamilton Associates is for time and expenses not to exceed $21,008. The project is in the current capital improvements plan and is included in the FY 2020 budget. Recommended the board approve this proposal for $21,008. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Trustee Sherlow?
Aye.
Trustee Grenier?
Aye.
Trustee Markey?
Aye.
Trustee Meyer?
Aye.
Trustee Toll?
Aye.
Trustee Ankerman?
Aye.
Item 22, this is a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a temporary easement agreement with J.C. Exempt Trust. This is for the Forest Cove Moffett Ravine Stabilization Project. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Okay, so moved by Ms. Ankerman, and a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Markey. To complete the village's Forest Cove Moffett Ravine Stabilization Project, some work is required outside of the village right-of-way and existing permanent easements. The work is necessary to stabilize the ravine at 2 locations where village storm sewers discharge into the bottom of the ravine. To complete the work, a temporary easement is required with J.C. Exempt Trust, not the owner of the property at 111 Moffett Road. The proposed temporary easement agreement would allow the village to complete the project as planned and then restore area within the easement to existing conditions. Any questions? Okay, I think this is a roll call, or is it a roll call? Roll call.
Trustee Grenier?
Aye.
Trustee Markey?
Aye.
Trustee Meyer?
Aye.
Trustee Toll?
Aye.
Trustee Ankerman?
Aye.
Trustee Sherlow?
Aye.
All right, we have a resolution approving a construction contract for the Forest Cove Moffett Ravine Stabilization Project. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Toll, and a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Ankerman. At 10 o'clock on Wednesday, December 4th, 2019, bids were opened in the Village Hall boardroom for the village's Forest Cove Moffett Ravine Stabilization Project. The lowest responsive bid was submitted by Nettle Creek Nursery, Inc. of Morris, Illinois, for a total of $212,209. The project will repair 2 areas where village storm sewers discharge in the ravine on the south side of Forest Cove Drive. In one area, the slope over a pipe installed in the early 1990s has eroded and will be repaired. In the other area, the village storm sewer going down the slope has failed in several areas, and water is flowing out of the broken pipe and eroding the slope. The project will replace the failed pipe and involve the installation of large riprap in the channel at the bottom of the ravine at both locations to prevent further erosion of the channel at these locations. The village's 2020 budget contains $260,000 for the project. A portion of the remaining budget is expected to be used by hiring a consultant to provide construction engineering services for this project. Nettle Creek Nursery has successfully completed similar projects in the past. The village engineer is recommending that the village board award the contract to Nettle Creek Nursery for the amount of $212,209. Any questions regarding this?
We had multiple bids on this one, correct?
I think there were 3 submittals.
Three submitted bids, okay.
Okay, roll call, please.
What is the timing on this project?
Jeff, why don't you come up? This is winter work, Jeff?
Yeah, some of it is winter. We just put the end date as the end of the fiscal year for the contractor, so they can kind of pick when over the winter they want to get started.
And
And it's April 30th.
when the restoration, the plantings would come in the spring.
In the spring, yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Markey.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankerman.
Aye.
Trustee Charlo.
Aye.
Trustee Grenier.
Aye.
Okay, resolution authorizing and ratifying an agreement with Civics LLP to provide independent audit services. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Okay, so moved by Mr. Grenier and second by Ms. Ankerman. The village engages an independent auditor to perform a financial and compliance audit of the village's accounting system, including the Lake Bluff Library, as a component unit of the village. In January 2009, the village solicited proposals from audit firms to provide independent audit services and approved an agreement with Sikich LLP of Naperville, Illinois, to provide auditing services for fiscal years 2009 through 13. 2014, the village renewed its engagement with Sikich for fiscal years 2014 to 18 and expanded the scope of the services to include the preparation of an annual single audit for federal grant compliance for an additional fee. On March 6, 2019, Sikich proposed to extend their engagement for an additional 3-year term, fiscal years 2019 through 2021, in the amounts of $40,255, $41,465, and $42,710 respectively, and to expand the scope of their services to include certain compliance reports made necessary by the Grant Accountability and Transparency Act. On March 11, 2019, the Finance Committee reviewed the proposal, discussed the services to be provided, unanimously recommend the village board continue to engage Sikich as auditor. On April 18, 2019, Finance Director executed an engagement letter with the auditor, which outlined the services and costs to be provided consistent with the Finance Committee's recommendation. Sikich has subsequently performed services for FY19 and has been paid for these services through previously approved warrants upon reliance of the engagement letter. To be consistent with the village's procurement policy and to address the FY19 services, it's recommended the Village Board of Trustees ratify the payments to Sikich for FY19 2019 auditing services and authorize the agreement with the auditor to perform the services for fiscal year 19, 20, and 21. Comments or questions? Roll call.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankerman.
Aye.
Trustee Charlo.
Aye.
Trustee Grenier.
Aye.
Trustee Markey.
Aye.
An ordinance amending Title I of the Municipal Code regarding the comprehensive fee schedule. Okay, this will be a water meeting reading fee for manual reads. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Toll and a second.
Second.
A second by Ms. Ankerman. Village is on the verge of replacing old water meters and implementing an automated reading system, AMR system, using funds from the recent $1.9 million bond issue. This project, awarded to United Meters Incorporated on November 11, 2019, involves the villages replacing over 2,100 meters and installing approximately 2,500 meter interface units, MIUs, to provide for remote reading capacity, to improve water distribution and water metering service levels. As part of the planning process for this project, the Finance Committee reviewed related regulations and policies at its September 9, 2019 meeting, including how to address individuals or property owners who will be unable to or may refuse to provide property access during the new meter installation period. Consensus of the committee was to recommend the village board approve a a water meter reading fee per billing cycle to capture the expenses related to manual readings needed for utility accounts whose meters are not equipped with new radio read MIUs. This fee may be imposed as a result of one or two circumstances. Voluntary opt-out. A resident may contact Village Hall and request that their replacement water meter not be equipped with a radio reading unit. The resident would instead be provided with an externally mounted display or automated connector to allow the village to read the meter. The resident would be charged the fee indefinitely unless they or a subsequent owner would opt for the installation of a radio reading unit. No reader replacement appointment. After 3 unsuccessful attempts to contact telephonic and written requests property owners in a 45-day period, the village shall treat the water customer as an opt-out and advise the owner they will be charged the new fee. This fee is intended to be a temporary measure until the property owner provides access to replace the meter. Replacing outdated and inaccurate meters is essential to the integrity of the village's utility billing system and ensures that the water use measured by an inaccurate meter reader is not subsidized by other water customers. It's a violation of the village code for a property owner to refuse to allow a meter replacement, and if a property owner will refuse for a prolonged period, staff would use its enforcement powers up to and including termination of water services to seek compliance. Ideally, the village will have only a small number of customers charge this fee in order to allow maximum utility of the new AMR system to be achieved. Are there any comments, questions from the trustees?
I have a quick question. So I know at one point we were talking about billing cycles with water, because right now the billing cycle is a longer cycle. Are we still talking about going to a monthly billing cycle? And then if you opted out, would you be charged $20 every month?
So we've had some discussion on the billing cycles, and once we get through the implementation, which is probably going to be at least a 12-month period, then we will look at shortening the billing cycle. And if it were to go to monthly or bi-monthly, it would be, the fee would be assessed at every billing point. So it could be once a month, it could be bi-monthly and quarterly.
Because an employee would physically have to go out to read that meter, is that correct?
Right.
That's the basis of the rate structure.
That's what I thought, okay. Any other questions or things?
Yes. So we're installing this system for basically getting the right billing for our residents. So if we detect there has been improper billing, are we going to go back in past for billing?
In other words, usage spikes up as a result of the automatic meter system.
For example.
I think it would have to be extraordinary for us to, and we would bring that to your attention if there's something extraordinary. Part of the issue is we know that the older meters are not capturing the low flows and maybe even more, right? Okay. So we know then that's why we're doing the project. But the idea, if there's something extraordinary, then we'd bring that to your attention, but probably not, I'm guessing.
One of the other advantages this brings is more automatic notification of water leaks, perhaps?
That is possible, and part of the conversation, we looked at the various technologies. There is the system that exists where it's constantly reading, and that's superior for what you're describing.
Yeah, right.
Ours is we still have to go out and call for the data, right? But in theory, if we go to a monthly billing cycle, we can certainly catch leaks that are happening. If somebody's away for Florida 4 months of the year, we can find out sooner if we go to a more frequent billing cycle.
Any other questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Good project.
An ordinance levying property taxes for fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2019 and ending April 30th, 2020 for the village of Lake Bluff, Lake County, Illinois. This is a second reading approval of the ordinance. May I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Meyer, and a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Grenier. Pursuant to state law, on or before the last Tuesday in December, the village must file with the county clerk an ordinance requesting a property tax to be levied on all taxable property within the village. After review of levy estimates and financial projections as presented by staff, the Finance Committee recommends the village levy $3,461,807 for the year 2019, which represents a 2.4 increase over the 2018 property tax extension. The Lake Bluff Public Library Board has requested a property tax levy of $987,711 for fiscal year 2019, which is a 2.4 increase over the previous year. The total levy amount of $4,449,518 is in compliance with the Property Tax Limitation Act and the Truth in Taxation Act. It was not required for this levy. The village board did approve first reading of this ordinance at its November 25 meeting. Any comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Trustee Toll?
Aye.
Trustee Ankman?
Aye.
Trustee Charlo?
Aye.
Trustee Grenier?
Aye.
Trustee Markey?
Aye.
Trustee Meyer?
Aye.
Okay, an ordinance abating the 2019 property taxes levied for general obligation debt series 2012, 2019, and 2019 A bonds of the village of Lake Bluff, Illinois, Lake County, Illinois. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, so moved by Ms. Ankerman and a second.
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Toll. This is second reading approval. The village currently has a refunding bond, Series 2012 and 2019A general obligation bonds outstanding pursuant to Ordinance 2012-13, 2019-18, and 2019-26. The county clerk is required to extend a property tax levy in the amount sufficient to pay the interest and principal on the bonds. In the past, the village has abated the annual property tax levy because the bond ordinances directly extending the annual property tax levy were filed with the county clerk, and ordinance is required to abate, not levy, the property tax for these bonds. Finance Director determined that the Waterworks Fund has the amount necessary to transfer to the Waterworks Bond and Interest Account for principal and interest payment on the 2019 general obligation bonds and the 2019A refunding bonds. The 2012 refunding bond principal and interest payments will be paid by general fund revenue. The village board approved first reading of the ordinance at its November 25th meeting. Any additional comments or questions on this? Roll call, please.
Trustee Ankman?
Aye.
Trustee Charlo?
Aye.
Trustee Grenier?
Aye.
Trustee Markey?
Aye.
Trustee Meyer?
Aye.
Trustee Toll?
Aye.
Sure. Okay. Trustees report. Do we have any trustees report tonight? Okay, and no last words? All
Notice she
right.
didn't say final words.
I
She said
know.
last.
Executive session, I believe we have the minutes from, where are they from on that one, Dave? And I don't, and if we have agreements, we don't have to go into executive session for the minutes. Do you have the date on that?
It's November 25th.
November 25th. So, do I have to get a motion not to go in executive session?
No, you just said they
We
want
just say we just do it. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Ankerman, do I have a
Second.
second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Grenier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Before we go, sir, did you wish to speak, or were you here? No. Oh, okay, all right, just, that's beautiful. Where is that? What is that?
Ireland.
Looks like Ireland, does
Stonebridge.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, all righty. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ankerman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Grenier. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Phew.